Hello everyone, welcome to Find Your Flow. I am Natalie and you're watching Yoga for Flexibility. So all yoga is basically for flexibility, but here we're just going to be spending a little bit more time sending some love, light and space into the dark places. So grab your at-home props and I will meet you on the mat. Okay, so to start our practice, make sure we have the at-home props that we would like. We can use for this practice a strap or a towel, belt, something to sit on, cushion, blanket, block, and some bricks or things like bricks, so books or anything at all you have that you use. And of course all of these props are optional, but they are really helpful in bringing the ground up to us and helping us to find a little bit more space. So take what you need and whenever you're ready, come to sit on the ground in a seat with your right leg in front of the left. So instead of the traditional cross-legged here, we're bringing one leg in front of the other and bringing the shins down towards the ground. And so if you feel that the knees are lifting up quite high because you do have quite tight hips, this would be an invitation to lift onto some more support and really just notice how this can help you in your practice. But whenever we're ready, lifting nice and tall through our spine, softening the shoulders and just allowing the hands to rest wherever they feel most comfortable. And closing the eyes or softening the gaze, just coming to breathe here with intention as we start our practice. And acknowledging what we brought with us to the mat today. So notice your energy levels, your mood, and what comes to mind when you ask yourself how you're feeling. Maybe you are going through quite a stressful, busy, hectic time. And so can we really bear that in mind as we flow through our practice, to not be too hard on ourselves, to enjoy what we're doing, and as much as we can bring ourselves to this present moment. So some days it can be easier than others, but every day it's just a practice of focusing on our breath and acknowledging each moment as it unfolds one by one, rather than worrying about things that have already happened and gone in the past and things that haven't even happened yet in the future. Let's just take a few more moments here. We'll find 5 breaths before jumping in. Tuning into where you feel your breath the most here. This space in your body, feeling it. You might like to physically place the hands there for our last couple of breaths. Nice. And then opening the eyes as we bring the hands to the ground or fingertips to the earth. And just starting to walk forward slightly. Keeping our hips rooted down onto our support, a lovely long spine. So if we're instantly starting to round, it's an indication that we need a bit more height and maybe we walk our hands back a little bit. So finding a breath here before floating over to the right side and really coming round to the right so we're getting a twist in here. Again, lifting up onto whatever we want to before floating over to the left. Nice. And then making your way back to center, hands come behind, this time palms firmly on the earth as we lift our hips off our support, shins down towards the ground, heart towards the sky. Take a beautiful breath in and smile. And exhale, nice. Now come to bring the left leg in front this time, and you might notice that one feels a little bit different to the other, and that's cool. That's okay, just be with that and breathe with that. So bringing the fingertips back to the ground and walking forwards. Maybe if We do have the space, we can come down to the forearms, but again, just being mindful of keeping rooted onto our support. And then coming over to the left, taking a nice twist. Over to the right. And all the way back to center, walking the hands back, palms down to the ground, lifting up, taking a beautiful breath in, smile into the space. As you exhale, release, keeping this left foot in front, bringing the hands to the knees as we just start to circle our heart space forwards and round to the left, all the way back. So we're rounding through the spine, chin towards the chest, and then over to the right, forwards, left and back, and just keep circling here. Really thinking about the movements of the spine that we're making. And then send your circle in the opposite direction. Really exaggerate this movement. You might look a bit funny, but think about how it feels when we get the shoulders involved, the elbows. At each of the parts of our spine, from the top to the middle to the bottom. Nice. And then coming all the way back to center. Uncrossing the legs and just giving the feet and the toes a little wiggle here. Circling the ankle in one direction and then the other. Nice. And then bringing the feet together as we open our knees out nice and wide in our Baddha Konasana, bound angle pose or butterfly pose, which I really like the butterfly wings our legs are, which is gorgeous analogy. And walking the feet out maybe a little bit further away from the pubic bone. So we can bring them all the way up here, great. But if we maybe don't have this space yet, we might invite this rounding through the spine and this collapse in the pelvis. So I invite you here, unless you feel comfortable and you've practiced this for a while, to bring the heels closer towards the pubic bone, to bring the legs a little bit further away from the body. And then keeping the knees out wide, rocking to the front of your support as we hold on to wherever feels comfortable in the hands. We'll reach tall through the spine, taking a breath in. As we exhale, bringing the stomach down towards the heels and just folding gently forwards. Being mindful not to just be using our hands to muscle into this posture and get ourselves closer towards the ground. So just breathe in and take the hands away maybe if this feels comfortable. We could always use a strap underneath the feet if we would like to here. That's a really nice option to take as we grow our practice. Nice. With every inhale, reminding ourselves to lengthen. With every exhale, perhaps we take the opportunity to travel a little deeper, only if there's space. Lovely long neck, finding one more breath. And then slowly lifting back up, hands to the outer knees, bringing the knees back together. And again, just wiggle the feet, wiggle the toes, rotate the ankles, and come back to your seat. You might like to turn sideways on the mat like I am. We are going to take our legs a little bit wider. And now there is absolutely no competition with anybody here, especially not yourself. So make sure this feels comfortable for you. If you've taken your legs out really wide and you instantly find this collapse and maybe a bit of discomfort, can we bring them a little bit closer together? Lifting the toes up towards the face wherever we are, mindful of this micro bend or more generous bend in the knees. And then taking the hands to the rib cage, we'll guide the ribs over towards the right leg. And this is an invitation. We might like to use our strap here, or just use the hands as we walk our hands down our leg. We'll take the strap around if we have that and just hold on softly. And finding a little bit of a twist here as we fold over our right leg. Stomach towards the thigh, spine nice and long. And just easing into this. Especially if this is the first bit of movement you've done all day, being really, really soft. Nice. And then Spiraling our heart space towards the center of our legs, so more towards the sky now, as we reach just our right hand down our right leg, or using the strap just to hold on here. And then taking our left hand either onto our hip, but maybe this feels really, really good. It could be enough room in this posture. But if we have a little bit more, we can reach the left hand towards the sky, or even over towards the right leg. Now there's lots of stuff going on here, so take this at your own pace. Mindful not to collapse in this left shoulder, and keep everything lifting towards the sky. Nice. Breathing in, breathing out. One more breath here before floating back to center and coming on to the other side. The option to take the strap if we would like to. First of all, hands to the rib cage, spiral over to the left leg before crawling forwards. Nice. Notice the hips. Are they still rooting down onto your support? Remember, it's not how far you can go, it's what you learn on the way down. I love that quote. One of my favorite yoga quotes. So think about that. Think about the journey rather than the destination. And then opening our heart space towards the sky, sending the left arm down the left leg, and taking the right hand wherever it feels most comfortable, whichever one of our bus stops works well for you today. Thinking about the gaze as well. It might just feel great to have our gaze down towards our feet or even our knee, the mat in front of us. Just be aware that if we do lift our gaze towards the sky, if something again doesn't feel great and we feel some congestion and compression being created, then can we maybe think about bringing our gaze back down again? It's all about finding your own practice and your own flow. One more breath here before lifting all the way up and taking the hands to the back of the knees as we bring them together and come to soften over the legs. We sent our hips lots of love there in the back of the legs, so just take a moment to bring everything back together to the center. Taking a breath in and a breath out. Lovely. And jumping on into our tabletop whenever you're ready. Wrists beneath the shoulders, knees beneath the hips. Sending our hips, the tailbone down towards the ground as we roll through the spine, lifting it all the way up into cat pose. Drop the gaze. Find this fluidity through the spine as we lift the tailbone, roll through each vertebrae, lift the gaze. Nice. 2 more times through your cat and cow poses. Make them your own. Really root down through the tops of the feet and through the fingertips. Whenever you're ready, float back to your neutral spine. Bump the hips to the left. Take your gaze past your left shoulder. Imagine that you're trying to take a cheeky peek at your left side of your booty or your left foot. And then float back to center and over to the right. So hips to the right, gaze to the right, coming all the way around. Nice. And coming back, tucking the toes under. Walking the hands onto the thighs as we sit on the feet. Taking a few breaths here, just listening to this chatter we're probably getting from our feet, opening into all of the deep tissue, which is really, really great. Spreading the toes. And if this is too much, you can lift up and come onto the knees. We're still getting some of this nice opening here, but just not as much. Always pad the knees if we need to. And then finding, if you want to, your strap, or simply reaching the right arm all the way up towards the sky, and then taking the hand down onto the upper back, taking the left hand, reaching it under, and walking the hands towards each other. Now this is where the strap comes in. If the hands don't touch, we can use our strap to bridge the gap between the hands. There we go. We're finding our cow arms. Just really breathing into this space in our shoulders, upper body. One more breath here before releasing and coming onto the other side. So setting up, the left hand reaches and then comes back behind. Right hand comes under and they meet in the center, or we use the strap to help them meet. This is all a journey, and this might feel really nice if you do work at a desk a lot, when you're on your laptop, your phone, drive a lot, any of these sorts of things, just to help release some tension around this space. Nice, finding one more breath. And as you exhale, release fingertips to the ground as we rock back onto the soles of the feet. Lengthen the legs and find a forward fold. Take the feet a little bit wider, perhaps even wider than shoulders width apart, as we just bend one knee and lengthen the other. And rock the hips gently from side to side. Allow the arms to release, crown of the head down towards the ground. Nice, finding stillness. Bringing the left hand to the center of our feet. Now this is where we might like to use a brick. We're going to straighten the right leg and bend the left leg really generously. And then reach our right hand up our left arm. Imagine we're like drawing a bow and arrow. And then option 1 is to bring the right hand to the small of the back. Option 2, reach it towards the sky. Again, think about where our gaze is. If it feels good lifting up, then cool, but if not, bring it down. We don't want to create any extra compression or tightness as we breathe into this twist. And releasing, right hand replaces the left. We straighten the left leg, bend the right generously, draw our bow back, and reach our left hand wherever it feels great. Just breathing here. Nice. And then coming all the way back into our fold. Inhaling to lift up halfway, finding a flat back. Airplane arms. Exhaling to release. Rooting down to reach for the sky as we roll up. Arms float wide. And stay reaching. We soften our shoulders as we come to an upward salute. So think about the feet being in like our mountain pose, hips distance apart, toes forwards, knees over the toes. And can we find even more length through our spine? But make sure we find and keep this space between our shoulders and our earlobes. Nice. And taking the hands a little bit wider as we sway to the right and to the left, like we're the leaves of a palm tree. Keeping the knees soft, just letting the hips sway. You can close the eyes if you want to really picture you on a beautiful beach somewhere in the sunshine. One more time to each side. Before coming back to center, releasing the right arm, keeping the left hand reaching towards the sky. Imagine we have this big heavy shopping bag in our right hand as it drags us down towards the ground, and our left hand reaches over. Mindful that the hips aren't doing all of the work, keeping them rooted to the ground as we feel the space through our side body. One more breath here. And then coming all the way back, taking our shopping bags into our left hand and reaching down, reaching up with the right. Nice. Taking a breath in. And breath out, float back, tuck the chin towards the chest as we roll down to the ground into our forward fold. Inhale to lift up halfway, finding a flat back. And release, walking the hands back down into our tabletop. Keeping the toes tucked under though as we sit back onto the heels, reach the arms out in front. Finding a lovely long spine, keep this length as we root down through the palms and lift up through the hips, downward facing dog. Pedal through the heels. Just wiggle the hips and find this movement that feels great wherever we are. Shoulders are nice and spacious here, rooting into the fingertips. Keep this soft micro bend in the elbows. And wherever you are, one more breath. Before floating the knees down to the ground. And stepping the left foot all the way forwards, turning the left toes out. Finding a lizard pose, bringing our hands to the center of our mat. And the beauty, one of the many beauties of lizard is that you can really make it your own. So taking whatever support you want to lift the ground up to you. You can bring your hands onto your support, or if you have the space, you might like to come down to the forearms, maybe even onto the ground, but just being mindful of this length that we found in our spine and keeping this lovely long neck. And as we are spending a few more breaths perhaps in static postures, although we're still staying active, we aren't moving so much as that we might normally do. Can you notice where your attention is traveling? So if it's jumped off the mat into what you're having for tea tonight or what you're doing at the weekend, can we notice this and bring it back? Think about the breath. Think about what we're doing with our body right now and how this feels for us. The option to stay here or tuck the back toes under as we lift the back knee off the ground. And wherever you are, root down through the right hand. Again, lift onto support if you need to. As we float the left hand towards the sky, we'll spiral the ribs over to the left. Nice. And releasing 2 more times, just opening into a twist. Keeping the front foot firmly planted once more. And releasing. Nice. Back knee down, turning the front toes, the left toes back to face forwards as we reach the hands and come into a low lunge. Shoulders soften. Really allow the hips to come slightly forward, so we're not just collapsing here, but rather mindfully finding a little more space in our right hip flexor. Nice. One more breath. And then bringing the fingertips to the ground as we tuck the back toes under, lift the back knee off and come to walk sideways, facing the right side of our mat. Both of our toes are facing forwards as we find a wide-legged forward fold. Few options here. Hands can come onto the hips, onto some level of support or down to the ground, and just notice this length in our spine as we just wiggle our hips from side to side. Bend one knee slightly and then the other. Nice. And pivoting the right foot out and coming into our runner's lunge on this side. So keeping lifting onto the fingertips, finding one breath here. And then planting the palms, stepping the right leg back, downward facing dog. Pedal through the heels. We're now facing the back of our mat. Don't worry, don't panic. Just enjoy, take a breath in and a breath out. Walking, stepping or hopping the feet forwards, coming into a fold. Inhaling to lift up halfway, your flat back. Hands might reach to the thighs or the shins now. Exhaling to fold. Lifting up slightly as we cross the right foot behind the left. And stay folding here, crown of the head reaches down. And then stepping the right foot back, and then the left comes behind the right. Come on to the other side, nice. Coming back into our forward fold, rooting down to rise up to standing. Reach for the sky, arms float wide. And keep them reaching as we soften the L of the shoulders. Find our palm tree leaf swaying from side to side. And then floating all the way back to center, chin down towards the chest as we roll into our fold. Planting the palms, stepping both feet back, downward facing dog. And then floating the knees to the earth, finding all fours. As we get there, we'll step the right foot forwards, turning the right toes out into our lizard pose. Hands come to the center. And notice we might like more support here or less support. So really just be present with how you feel today. And it might hugely differ from one day to the other. So just accept exactly where you are. Option to lift the back knee off the ground, tucking the toes under, wherever we are. Root down through that left palm. Right hand reaches for the sky, spiraling the chest open to the right, and releasing twice more. Beautiful. Coming down, turning the right toes forward, everybody rising into your lunge. Making sure we have this nice wide stance on our two parallel lines like a train track, rather than that tightrope. And take a look at the front toes. If they're clutching onto your mat for dear life, can we release them and find this little softness in them? Again, although this is an active pose, there's lots of muscles working here, we're still inviting this sense of that softness, this gentle movement, taking the support we need, finding one more breath. Before bringing the hands down, tucking the back toes under, lifting off and floating back to the middle of our mat, wide-legged forward fold, toes face forwards. Notice where the hands want to be here. Gorgeous. Just wiggling the hips one more time, side to side. And then pivoting the left foot out, coming into our runner's lunge, hands either side, finding length through the spine. And then planting the palms, step back, downward facing dog. Pedal through the heels. Notice if we can feel a little bit more space. This must be our third or fourth down dog now. So really just see, can we ease into this a little bit more? Beautiful. Walking, stepping or hopping the feet forwards. Finding your fold. Inhaling to lift up halfway. Fingertips might come to the ground. Exhaling to fold and then rooting down. We rise up. Keeping the hands reaching. This time staying quite still for just one breath. Palms float together. Come down to the heart as we send our sitting bones behind us. Bending our knees, chair pose. Feeling our weight spread through all four corners of both feet. We can't have a yoga practice without a chair pose. We all love chair pose to feel the strength as well as finding the length that we have in our practice today. Finding one more breath here. Before folding forwards, nice. On your next inhale, lift up halfway. Exhale to fold, plant the palms. This time, step the feet back into a plank pose. So knees can be lifted or lowered. We're spreading through our fingers, keeping our shoulders over our wrists. And if the knees are lifted, really sending away through the heels. So wherever we are, activating all of our body, shifting our weight forwards. We can bring the knees down here as we send the elbows behind us, lower to the earth, nice. Take the hands nice and wide off our mat, tenting the palms so the fingertips come down to the ground. As we take our feet a little wider, we'll inhale, exhale, lift our heart forwards, rise into our cobra, and release, nice. 2 more times, lifting on the exhale. Beautiful. Whenever you've done, plant the hands either side of the rib cage, and as we press all the way up, we'll come to sit straight, back onto the heels into a child's pose. Snuggle into your child's pose. Make it your own. Maybe the legs come a bit wider, the knees, or they come a little bit closer together. Everybody though, to start off with, reaching the arms forwards as we float the hands over to the left side of the mat. Maybe the right hand reaches on top, just keep the hips sitting back. And floating through center over to the right. Coming all the way back. You can release the hands behind you if you would like to, or we can bring the palms together and walk the elbows forwards as we lift the palms towards behind the back of the head. Just breathe here in your child's pose. Notice where you feel your breath here the most and how it might have changed from when we first started our practice. Just one more breath. Before slowly lifting halfway up as we come to walk the arms forwards, lift our hips towards the sky and find Anahata Asana, heart to earth pose. So releasing our heart down towards the ground. And this is also called puppy posture. So picture your little puppy or a puppy that you've seen before doing this, and just see how much they enjoy it and see if we can enjoy it just the same amount. Breathing in, breathing out. Nice. Lifting all the way back up, tucking the toes under as we come to sit on the heels, but keep the palms pressing down. Send the hips high, downward facing dog. Walking the feet together in our down dog. We'll bend the knees and send the hips over towards the left side of the mat. Imagine we're sitting down on the left side of our mat and then coming all the way up to center and over to the right. Bend the knees. Imagine we're moving like a corkscrew here, lifting up and over to the left and up over to the right. One more time on each side. Nice, then come all the way back, downward dog, step the feet a little wider, and then walk, step or hop them forwards, coming into our fold. On your next inhale, lift up halfway, find your flat back. Exhaling to fold, rooting down, you guessed it, to rise up. Hands reach for the sky, this time palms come together, down at the heart. We bend our knees, sit back in our chair pose. And from our chair, taking our weight over towards our left leg. Keep it bent. And then start to send the right leg behind us. It doesn't have to lift high off the ground, we can keep it quite close. We might like to lift it a little higher though. Keep sending away through the heel and finding this extension that we found in our cobra pose on the ground. Nice. And we can drag our toes across the floor here if we'd like to, or keeping them lifted if we can, as we bend our right knee, lift it up in front. Hands stay at the heart now or reach for the sky. Beautiful. Finding one breath here. And then everybody come to find your version of tree pose. So bringing the right foot either onto the inside of the ankle, the calf, or maybe we give it a helping hand to the inside of the thigh. Wherever we are, lifting out of this left hip. So if we're dumping our weight and collapsing, can we press our left heel into the ground to help us rise out of this space. Nice. Finding one more breath here before releasing the right leg. And coming to sit back down in your chair pose, hands together at the heart. Nice. Taking a breath in. And as you breathe out, take the weight over to the right leg. Lift the left leg just off the ground. And start to float the left leg back. Doesn't have to be super, super high. Maybe it does travel a little bit higher. We find extension through our spine, keeping our heart lifting forwards. Nice, and if we can, keeping this left leg lifted off the ground as we bend the knee and send it forwards. Option to take the hands towards the sky. Nice. And then finding your tree pose with the left leg. Notice where you want the foot to go here. It might be the same place, might be a different place, but keep pressing out of that right hip. And enjoy this. Smile. If you're holding your breath, which we sometimes can do when we're trying to balance, can we notice this? Remember to come back to where our awareness is. Find one more breath. And as you exhale, release. Come back into this time of forward fold, so chin towards the chest, roll all the way down. Inhale to lift up halfway. Exhale to fold. Stepping both feet back, straight into downward facing dog, lifting the hips high. And then slowly melting the knees towards the earth tabletop and scooting the legs to one side as we jump through to a seat. As always, you can lift up onto some support to find a little extra space. And when we get onto our seat, we'll send our left leg long and hug our right leg up and in. I have a few options in our twist here. We are going to be hugging the left arm around and sending the right hand to the ground behind us. We can cross our right foot over to the other side of the left. Another option is to bend the left leg underneath us here. So each is a little bit of a different feeling in the legs space-wise, but we're still getting this really juicy twist through our center and our thoracic spine. All of our internal organs are getting a lot of love in here. So notice where you want to be in the legs, but keep reaching all through the torso. So if the shoulders have crept up near the ears, just being aware of this and finding that space. One more breath here before floating back and coming onto the other side. So sending the right leg long, hugging the left leg in, and finding your twist on this side. Whichever variation of the legs feels good for you today. We'll hug the right arm around the left leg and send the left fingertips to the ground behind us. Where is your attention here? Mine was just on a bird, on the tree I can see outside. So that's quite a nice place for it to wander to. But bringing it back to the breath, everybody finding one more full inhale and exhale. Before journeying on back, sending both legs out long. And taking them a little bit wider so they're about hips width apart. We have a tendency to bring our legs really close together like a piece of rope. So taking them a little bit wider and bending the knees again generously, or having that small micro bend in there. Everybody reaching tall through the spine, really, really tall in the torso, reaching like a mountain with this sense of dignity, keeping this as we hinge from the hips, stomach towards the thighs. If we have our strap, we might like to use this around the feet, or simply allow the arms to rest on the legs wherever they feel most comfortable. And through time we can work to straighten the legs a little bit more, but as soon as we straighten the legs, notice if we feel this pulling stemming from the lower back and glute space, maybe it reaches a little higher, and just be aware that we don't want to make ourselves feel uncomfortable. I mean, a lot of people say no pain, no gain, but in yoga we like to just say if there's pain, then leave it and ease out. One more breath here before lifting up and sending yourself off your prop. Coming to sit in the center of your mat if you aren't already there. We'll keep the legs lengthening long as we bring the chin towards the chest and curl down towards the ground, making our way to the earth, and straight away bringing the feet onto the ground as wide as our mat roughly. So the thighs are internally rotating towards each other and the knees are coming together in the center. This really just helps to allow the lower back to soften and get rid of this hanging effect that we can sometimes have, this feeling when the legs are just knees pointing towards the sky. So finding a breath here. And then we're going to move, bringing the feet towards each other. So just heel toeing the soles of the feet together as we open the knees out wide in Supta Baddha Konasana. So finding a reclined version of our bound angle pose. And keeping our lower back down towards the ground as we explore this space in the hips. Before coming all the way back, feet walk wide, knees come together. And just rolling through this a few more times. Having a couple of breaths in each space, more if you would like to. I definitely invite you to explore this a little more if it feels great. This is really nice just to ease into some hip movement. So you can do this anytime throughout your day. It's really nice to start the day with this. Or after you've done some work like we have today on our mats, it's a nice way to finish as well. So one more time, coming back, feet wide, and then feet together. And staying here with your feet together as we reach the arms all the way behind us. Option to interlace the hands and reach away with the palms if this feels good. And this time allowing our lower back to arch off the mat, just slightly, feeling this space in our front body, breathing in. Everybody, as you breathe out, release the arms. Use them to bring the knees back together as we hug the right knee in towards center. Send the left leg out long. And then guiding our right knee over towards the left side of our mat as we bring the shoulder blades down towards the ground. So really keep them rooted down. If we start to roll off, it's a sign that we shouldn't be taking our right leg so far. So just be mindful. And we can take our right hand onto our rib cage and maybe reach it out wide. Perhaps the gaze follows here. In our supine twist, just find your comfortable space and breathe. And make your way back to center. Hug the left leg in, right leg long. And guide that left knee over towards the right. Shoulders stay rooted down. Imagine there are two little magnets on them. And they can't move from your mat beneath you. Notice where the gaze is. Really enjoy this twist. And then floating back to center. Both knees hugging in now. Just rock from side to side. And coming back to center, reaching the knees a little bit wider, more towards the armpit space. Kicking both feet towards the sky. Keeping this bend in the knees though as we start to find our happy baby pose. Yay! Hands can be on the hamstrings, on the calves, outer edges, inner arches of the feet. Just find where feels good for you. And mindful that we aren't curling our lower back off the ground. So keeping our lower back and glutes rooted. And having a little fun with this. Maybe we rock, maybe we lengthen one leg or both legs. Keeping our upper back on the ground as well. And finding 3 more breaths, having this play here. Picture that happy baby on their play mat with their feet behind their ears. And that is true flexibility at its finest. Alright, so whenever you finish your final exhale, just release the legs and come to soften them on the ground. Arms wherever they feel most comfortable as we find our final and most precious resting posture, Shavasana. Inhaling through the nose and opening your mouth, sighing it out. Twice more. Filling up all of the space with your inhale and then sighing it all out, emptying the lungs with your exhale. Come back to your natural breath. Keep the face soft. The hands, the feet, arms, legs. The front body, the back body. Everything is melting towards the ground. And just take a moment to thank yourself for this amazing practice you've just allowed yourself to do. Sending some extra love and space to some areas that we often hold a lot of tightness and tension. And just sending ourselves a reminder to be kind to ourselves always, and to our bodies as well, even just appreciating how this amazing change can happen from one day to the other, not just in our strength and flexibility levels, but every other way. And how that's just what makes us us. You can find a lot longer amount of time here if you would like to. Or if you have to boot, scoot and boogie off the mat, I invite you to bring the palms towards each other at the heart if that resonates, or keep them in your comfy place. I thank you so much for practicing with me today. I'll see you next time. Namaste.